Hello, everyone. Welcome to TCOM 408. This is Dr. Mike. Thank you for joining me. In this video, we're going to start talking about another basic perspective or approach to ethics. And in this video, we want to focus in on our duties, our responsibilities, our obligations. At this point, we need to differentiate between deontological versus teleological theories. These are big words, but they're easy to understand. Deontological and teleological. A deontological theory doesn't concern itself with consequences. It's all about duty. Deon is the Greek word for duty. Okay, so it's not concerned about virtue or consequence. A deontological theory spells out those duties, those obligations that are morally required of all of us. This is also called an absolutist approach. There's absolute duties, obligations that we must follow according to this approach. Now, on the other hand, we have a teleological theory of ethics, and that's one that measures the rightness or wrongness of any action in terms of its consequences, its outcomes, its results. This is called consequentialist theory. So let's talk more about the deontological theories. These are the theories that suggest it's your duty. And sometimes these are some very heavy obligations. Now, some of the duties that we have were prescribed by religion. This is called divine command theory. It's the ethical theory that an act is obligatory because it's commanded to us by God. Now, there are many sources of divine command theory. These include the Bible, the Torah, the Quran. All of these religious texts offer ideas about the duties and the obligations that each one of us have in terms of our responsibilities to ourselves and to others. A good example of divine command theory would be the Ten Commandments, a list of religious moral imperatives of duties that, according to Judeo-Christian tradition, were written by God and given directly to Moses. And so you're probably familiar with the Ten Commandments. You know, there are 5 of them that are kind of relevant to our class. The commandments that instruct us that we have a duty to honor our parents. And of course, you know, those famous commandments. Thou shalt not murder. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Now, obviously, not everybody believes in God or a higher power. And it's problematic sometimes trying to figure out which commands to follow. Nevertheless, there are many important ethical principles and values expressed in the Bible. Things like love, mercy, and caring. I encourage you to study the biblical teachings of Christ and learn about the many ethical and moral precepts, that were advanced by Christianity. You might be familiar with some of these commandments. Love your neighbor as yourself. How about this one? The golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Sometimes the answer to an ethical dilemma can lie right here in the basic golden rule. This is so important. This is the ethic of reciprocity. The golden rule, a fundamental moral value, which simply means treat others as you would like to be treated. Okay. Now, you might think that this is exclusive to Christianity, the idea behind the golden rule, but it's not. The Golden Rule has been expressed in every major religion around the world. Every religion has some version of the Golden Rule. So this means it's a universal principle. It cuts across all religions and cultures. The Golden Rule. Now, maybe you should see this as a moral imperative, a duty. And wouldn't it be great if more folks truly embraced the Golden Rule? Let's talk a little bit about the most famous of the deontological theorist, and that's Immanuel Kant, who encouraged us to do our duty. He talked about the importance of duties to leading a moral life. Okay? So Kant thought in terms of moral absolutes. He was a moral absolutist. He said duty is the essential moral value, and duties to other people are really at the core of ethics. What we need to do is figure out what these duties are and then have the courage and the conviction to hold true to those obligations. So in Kantian ethics, the focus is on duty. What's your obligation, rather than the outcome or the consequence or virtue or even happiness. Okay? It's all about doing your duty. Duties are absolute obligations, absolutes. You have to fulfill these, regardless of your personal feelings or inclinations. So when you think of Kant's categorical imperative, think of your absolute duties, or maybe your absolute do's and don'ts. Okay? Sometimes a categorical imperative instructs us what not to do. So a categorical imperative or a moral imperative, it's this moral obligation that's imposed on us no matter what the circumstances or our personal desires. Okay? We might not want to do it, but we know we should because it's our duty. Kant said, act only according to that maxim by which you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law. Another way of saying this, if you think everybody else should follow the rules, then so should you. Are there absolutes? Well, there might be a few absolute duties for you. You'll have to figure them out for yourself. Okay, I think we have a duty of fidelity to tell the truth and to live up to our word. We have the duty of beneficence to give back to the world. We have the duty to promote justice and fairness. We have a duty of self-improvement, a duty of reparation, and a duty of gratitude. But you will have to figure out which duties and obligations are the most important for you. Can you identify any categorical imperatives? Now, let's think about the media world, categorical imperatives as they relate to the media world. I'm not sure there's a lot of these, but I can identify some in the world of news, entertainment, video games, advertising, social media, children. Here's some of the categorical or moral imperatives I think are important in the media world. You need to come up with your own list. For me, these are some basics. Tell the truth in news and advertising. Promote inclusion and diversity and pluralism. Always protect the children and support the rating system. Promote environmental protection. Promote and protect consumer privacy. Always engage in ethical business practices, and always, I hope, support democracy and the First Amendment. Now, let's think about the coronavirus pandemic. Any moral imperatives for citizens, for individuals during the coronavirus pandemic? Well, I might suggest the following moral imperatives. Practice public health safeguards. Wear the mask. Social distance. Reach out to people who are suffering, the hungry, the needy. Stay informed and up to date about all the latest medical developments and treatments and preventions. Try and follow the golden rule. Treat others the way you would want to be treated. Extend patience. Any other moral imperatives that you can think of during the coronavirus pandemic? And what about the world of the media? Do the media have obligations? And the big media and tech companies, do they have moral obligations during the pandemic? Well, let me suggest that yes, they do have a few moral obligations, the media companies. Tell the truth, okay, about what's happening in the news. Make sure the advertising around the coronavirus is truthful and honest. Make sure the employees and the customers are safe and secure and protected as much as possible. Reach out and help people who are suffering because of the pandemic. And maybe you can think of other imperatives or obligations for companies during the pandemic. Now, there's a great many moral obligations, duties. Okay, according to Kant, there are certain categorical imperatives like truth and fairness, core values that must guide our ethical decisions, and that we can never justify unethical behavior by the outcomes. See, some people think sometimes it's the ends justify the means, so you can do anything as long as you get a good outcome. Well, Christian ethics don't see it this way. Kant promoted the Judeo-Christian value of seeing people as ends in and of themselves and never as a mean to an end. What this means is we don't use people to get what we want, even if we think the outcome is a good one. Act so that you treat humanity always as an end and never only as a means. Immanuel Kant. In other words, the ends do not justify the means. You can't use people, again, to achieve your goals. All right, that's all I've got in this video. In the next video, we'll talk more about these duty-based theories. I hope you got something out of this little video. Please continue to take care of yourself and each other, and I will see you soon. So long.